Today on Inquirer, Las Piñas Court acquits son of Justice Secretary Boying Remulla of illegal drug possession charge. President Bongbong Marcos apologizes for Philippine airspace fiasco.
I'm sorry, of course we have to apologize to our kababayans who, especially those who came from abroad.
Pag-IBIG announces suspension of scheduled contribution hike this year. And unemployment rate in the Philippines drops to 4.2% in November 2022. Good evening. A Las Piñas City Court on Friday acquitted the son of Justice Secretary Boying Remulla of illegal drug possession charge. INQUIRER.net's justice reporter Tech Torres Tupas has the details. Tech?
Neil, the Las Piñas Regional Trial Court has acquitted Juanito Jose Remulla III, eldest son of Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla, of charges of illegal drug possession. Juanito was arrested on October 11, 2022 by agents of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency after accepting a package containing 2 bags of marijuana weighing 893.91 grams. There are several points raised by the court in its ruling that led to Juanito's acquittal. First, the court said there is reasonable doubt that Juanito knowingly received the package. The judge said that the prosecution must establish 3 elements to secure conviction, one of which is that the accused freely and consciously possessed the said drug. In this case, the prosecution witnesses themselves admitted that Juanito is not aware of the package. The court said, and I quote, "Apart from showing that the package or parcel was handed to the accused, the prosecution did not present other evidence to show that the former knew that it contained marijuana. The prosecution failed to show that accused by receiving the parcel knew that he was also possessing illegal drugs." Second, the court said even if the operation was a controlled delivery, law enforcers are still required to ensure the integrity of the seized items. In this case, the court said as early as September 28, 2022, Customs Anti-Illegal Drug Task Force already had possession over the parcel. However, no proof was presented showing how the evidence was preserved from September 28 until it was turned over to PDEA on October 10. No details was also given regarding the custody of the dangerous drugs from the time it was turned over to the laboratory up to its presentation in court. The court said chain of custody is not merely a matter of procedural formalities, but is a matter rooted in the very core of the crimes commission. Despite his acquittal in the possession of illegal drugs, Juanito is still facing an importation of illegal drugs complaint before the Pasay City Prosecutor's Office over the same 893.91 grams of marijuana. Meanwhile, Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla in a statement said the court has already rendered the decision. He said he did not interfere in the process and he is wishing his son further redemption in the future. Neil?
That showed, ang tanong ngayon is what happens next? Let's talk legal process here. Mayroon pa bang possible next move ang prosecution regarding sa kasong ito?
Ang next option nila is to file a motion for reconsideration before the court. So, meron silang period to file a motion for reconsideration, or they can take the case directly to the Court of Appeals if they want to.
Have we heard anything about whether or not the prosecution is planning to pursue this? As you mentioned nga, di ba, mayroong option itong prosecution to file a motion for reconsideration. So have we heard anything from them indicating that they will pursue this further?
So far, wala pang statement ng prosecution, but PDEA said they respect the decision of the court and they will carefully study the reason behind the acquittal and they will exercise diligence in the conduct of similar operations in the future.
One more question, Tech. Isa sa mga criticism sa kasong ito, and one of the reasons this case is particularly popular is the involvement of the son of the Justice Secretary. A lot of people are saying that there might be conflict of influence since Secretary Remulla is, after all, the Secretary of Justice. And at the same time, may mga criticism na the common Filipino might not be given such due process it's particularly in drug cases. So ano masasabi ni Secretary Remulla tungkol dito?
Sabi niya nga dun sa statement niya kanina, hindi siya nag-interfere sa process. And may previous statement na rin siya before na he is leaving the procedure sa National Prosecution Service, which is, although it's under the Department of Justice, may sarili siyang head. And Secretary Remulla also made a statement last year na whatever the ruling or resolution of the NPS or the National Prosecution Service, hindi siya dapat umakyat sa Department of Justice.
Okay, thank you, Tech. We'll wait for developments on this story. That's Tech Torres Tupas reporting live. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has apologized for the New Year's Day disruption at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport due to the air traffic management system malfunction. His apology came as he inspected NAIA Terminal 3 a week after the fiasco, which either canceled, delayed, or diverted more than 300 domestic and international flights on January 1, affecting at least 56,000 travelers. Marcos said the airspace mess was a very unfortunate incident that no one wanted to happen. The president said the normal operations have already been restored in the country's airports. He also noted that the government has extended various forms of assistance to thousands of affected passengers. Marcos added that an emergency procurement of 2 units of uninterrupted power supply systems were made to prevent another malfunction in the country's air management system.
I'm sorry, of course, we have to apologize to our kababayans who, especially those who came from abroad. Dahil limitado ang kanilang bakasyon, nawala yung 2-3 araw eh. Considering how big the problem was, I think that our the airport authorities, our cabinet secretaries, and all those who were involved in returning the system back have done a reasonably good job. At 6 hours is rather a short time considering how much needed to be done to get the system back up into working condition.
Additional COVID-19 restrictions are not needed to be imposed for travelers coming from China, according to the Department of Health. In a media forum, Health Officer in Charge Maria Rosario Vergere was asked if the DOH plans to implement tighter restrictions for visitors coming from China, where a COVID-19 surge currently occurs. Vergere responded that they do not see any reason, based on science and evidence, to impose additional restrictions. Vergere said that decisions should not just be based on the situation in China, as an interaction between and among the different populations across the globe has already happened. Currently, the DOH is implementing a heightened surveillance of travelers entering the Philippines. The health officials said the current protocols are effective. Recently, 8 unvaccinated Filipinos coming to the Philippines from China tested positive for COVID-19. Several countries have already required COVID-19 tests for visitors coming from China.
As to the additional restrictions in terms of what's happening in China, saka po yung mga pumapasok sa ating galing sa China, whether it be foreign nationals or Filipino, wala pa po tayo nakikitang rason based on science and evidence that we should add additional restrictions.
The unemployment rate in the Philippines fell further to 4.2% in November 2022, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. Data from PSA's labor force survey shows the jobless rate improved to pre-pandemic levels at 4.2% in November 2022 from 4.5% in October 2022 and 6.5% in November 2021. In a briefing, National Statistician Dennis Mapa said the lower jobless rate was mainly due to the yearly rev-up of economic activities in the fourth quarter, particularly on account of the holidays. Mapa said that the labor force participation rate was back to pre-pandemic levels at 67.5% in November. The labor force participation rate refers to the number of working-age Filipinos who do have jobs or were available for jobs reckoned against the total population aged at least 15 years. Meanwhile, contributing the most number of new hires were companies engaged in wholesale and retail trade, manufacturing, accommodation and food service activities, agriculture and forestry, and public administration and defense. The Home Development Mutual Fund or Pag-IBIG Fund has announced the suspension of the scheduled hike in its members' monthly contribution this year. Pag-IBIG Department Manager for Public Media Affairs Jack Jacinto said the planned increase in the contribution rates of its members and their employers from 100 pesos to 150 pesos will be deferred for the third time. Jacinto cited the need to provide financial relief to Filipinos recovering from the economic impacts of the pandemic. He also recalled that contributions of Pag-IBIG Fund members were first scheduled for a hike in 2021, but due to the pandemic, it was deferred and was again suspended in 2022. Jacinto noted that the last hike in Pag-IBIG Fund contributions was in 1986.
Batid po natin na patuloy na nag-recover ang ating mga miyembro, pati na din po ang business community mula sa mga epekto ng pandemya at alinsunod na din po sa direktibo ng ating Pangulong Bongbong Marcos na bigyan ng financial relief ang ating mga kababayan. Patuloy po nating ipagpapaliban ngayong taong 2023 ang pagtaas ng kontribusyon ng ating mga miyembro at ng kanilang mga employers.
The call for the courtesy resignation of police colonels and generals seems out of place and unnecessary, according to Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel. Interior Secretary Benher Abalos earlier urged high-ranking officials of the Philippine National Police to submit a courtesy resignation amid possible involvement in the illegal drug trade. In an interview on Teleradyo's Kabayan, Pimentel said Abalos's call for courtesy resignations seem unnecessary, especially when the DILG chief did not say anything about drug syndicates or drug lords controlling the police force. Pimentel pointed out that a better approach would be filing a case against individuals who are identified to be involved in the drug menace. He said if Secretary Abalos has a report with names of erring officers, they should file a case against them if they have evidence. Abalos recently said that a 5-man committee will evaluate the profiles of resigned officials. They would continue to work until the panel accepts their courtesy resignation and relieves them from duty. Should the committee reject their resignation, however, the officials would be reinstated. Alamin naman natin ang mainit na balita sa mundo ng showbiz kasama si Pauline Del Rosario ng Bandera. Pauline?
Hi Neil! Heto na nga ang latest chika. Ibinunyag na ng model actress na si Solen Yusuf ang tunay na pangalan ng second baby nila ni Nico Bolsico. Sa Instagram, opisyal na ipinakilala ng aktres ang bagong miyembro na kanilang pamilya na si Maylis Lionel Bolsico. Bukod dyan ay nagpost din ang mister ni Solen at ipinaliwanag naman niya kung bakit may Lionel sa pangalan nito. Ayon sa kanya, masyado na kasing French ang mga anak nila ni Solen.
A lot of people that just watch Solen's video is asking me how could I name my daughter Lionel. The reason is I need her to feel Argentinian. She feels so French already because she's our second daughter.
Kung matatandaan, una nang nireveal ni Nico ang second name na kanilang bagong baby noong nakaraang buwan, na kung saan ay ipinangalanan niya ito sa Argentinian professional footballer na si Lionel Messi. At yan ang latest Bandera chika natin for today. Para sa buong detalye, bisitahin lang ang bandera.inquirer.net o kaya naman ang social media ng Bandera sa Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at TikTok. Balik sa iyo, Neil!
Salamat, Pauline, and congratulations kila Solen and Nico. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.